what do you? I guess a little quick warm up question for you is, what do you think of was your favorite release from the Apple conference? Was it tinted home? Was it the tinted app icons and home screen?
Oh yeah, I love those. Um, Seriously, I think probably like the Siri interactions. There's like a lot of like super awesome, visually just great stuff, which I think people have come to expect at this point.
Yeah.
But also some questionable things, I guess, were announced. But I can't win them all.
For lack of better words, yeah. Some of
Yeah,
the questionable things. I feel like a lot of design Twitter was up in arms about the about the tinted icons.
yeah, a very vocal
Those
minority.
interactions. The interactions are great though. The lock button, the volume slider, the Siri one, like the little
Hmm.
outline across the screen. I was like, wow, that is fantastic.
Yeah,
Awesome. Well, we are officially live now. So thank you so
sweet.
much for joining us here today. For everybody who's just tuning in, this is Zeppelin's series Design to Dev, where we interview folks who build and design beautiful products. And today we have with us Aleks, who is a product designer at Gather. Aleks, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, tell us who you are, what you do, and what your day-to-day looks like. We'd love to get to know you.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me. Big fan of Zeppelin's been kind of like a staple for many, many years. So this is really exciting to be invited. Thanks again for that.
Of course.
But yeah, I am, like you said, a product designer at Gather, which is like a virtual office HQ type thing to like help teams collaborate better and I guess improve organic interactions and that sort of thing. So very, very unique product with a lot of layers. It's been a lot of fun. So yeah, absolutely loving it. Day to day over there varies significantly, which is probably one of my favorite parts of the job. Just like a lot of different challenges. But I feel like at like the fundamental like root of it all is a very typical product design process. User research, prototyping, ideation, talking with other designers, engineers, that sort of thing. Yeah, anything specific we kind of
Awesome.
want to
No,
talk about?
that was fantastic.
Cool.
That's perfect. So do you have all of your team meetings, or are those all held in Gather? For those of you who don't know, it's like a really cool software to bring remote teams together. I don't know if I'm doing the
Yeah,
tagline or anything any justice, but it's awesome. You get to make your own little desk and customize it. I've been a big fan of it for a long time and watched it from afar. And I'm like, oh God, if I had that, I would spend hours just like designing my little character and all the things too.
yeah. We should maybe we can do an office tour. Get Zeppelin on there.
That would be fantastic. I'll get that set up on our end, because that would be lovely. Awesome. I'd love to also get to know you a little bit more as a designer too. So what are some of the core beliefs or experiences that have shaped you the most as a designer?
Mm, that's a good one. I think because there's a lot of ways to take this question. From the design perspective, I feel like the important things that you kind of learn to understand, especially working with startups, which is like kind of what I did a lot, is like working in like small, very like focused teams, is like importance of like moving fast, just like throughout the entire process, including design, which means being able to seek feedback early, get on the same page with like product and eng of feasibility of it all, and like just knowing exactly what you're doing and then moving fast and like iterating and pivoting as you need to, which is big. But some core beliefs in terms of design, I think the most important things are probably being a product person too, in a way, like really understanding
Mm,
the product first of all, and like the landscape, and that I think gives you empathy for the user, which is great at Gather specifically because like we're obviously like dog fooding the app the entire time, so kind of like really understand the pain there. So like yeah, empathy towards the user, collaborations, like working very closely with all the other teams, making sure the vision is unified, and then yeah, being open to feedback I think is a big one. And this one I feel like takes people some time to get good at. I know it did for me. I know at the start of my career I was like very defensive about any like feedback and like criticisms, like, but I think as like you kind of become more experienced, that goes away and you end up treating it as a gift that it is, right? Like people giving you feedback and like helping you, I guess, learn and adapt to that is like super, super valuable. Obviously not all feedback is equal, but I think as you like listen to more users and other designers, like you kind of start to understand patterns and go from there. But
Awesome.
yeah.
I love that. I love that. Feedback is at the heart of everything. And like you
Hmm.
said, I feel like too often most folks can get stuck up on like, I know what I'm doing is right. Like, no,
Yeah.
no, trust me, this is good. That's awesome. That's fantastic to hear. And it's awesome too to know that you carry that through your entire process as well, which makes Gather such a great product. So I'm excited about that too. If you had to point to maybe one person or one thing as your inspiration, who or what would that be?
What, just one person?
Just one.
What to say? This is so hard to like not be basic here and like say like Johnny Ive or something. But um, I would have like I'll take the thing, I guess,
Sure.
because to me, I think the most like interesting um, products are usually things that like seem incredibly obvious in retrospect, right? Like when you look back and you're like, yeah, like of course this is how you would do that, where it like seems like the only kind of solution. I think like, and I hate to do this, but like I gotta say like the iPhone is probably that thing for like a lot of
Yeah,
people.
definitely.
Um, Very controversial, at the time. Like no one's like, yeah, who wants to type on the screen? Like this is never gonna work. But if it's good enough and like you have vision, like it's gonna work. So that's like a really good example of that. I think it's like a very inspiring thing to
Mhm.
like try to like create a level of, I guess, interaction or design where people just look at it and be like, yeah, like this makes so much sense. And like the design of it all is almost like invisible, right? It's like this is the way to do it, right? Like there's no other way. It's like something like that is very inspiring to me.
I love that. And what you said too reminds me, we had our own product designer, Stacy, was on, and she pointed to a quote. It was that Ford quote that was like, if you would have asked people what they wanted back then, they would have said faster horses. And so it's almost like,
Hmm.
like you said,
Exactly.
like make it so where it's like, yeah, it should have always been like this. And it's refreshing as well to know like there's always going to be something new on the horizon that you haven't thought of, or there's always ways to expand in that too. And I love to hear that thinking is like deeply ingrained within the product design world too. That's awesome. Very
Yeah.
cool. Well, thank you very much. That was fantastic. A great first section here. We're moving on now into our segment that I call very aptly named overrated or underrated, where I'm just going to throw a few terms at you and you can tell me if you think they are overrated or underrated.
Let's
Um,
go.
we'll start off light with a few different fonts here. So the first font is Inter. Overrated or underrated?
Rated appropriately, I would say. Yeah.
All right, perfect. The next one is Helvetica.
Underrated,
Underrated.
which is
Okay.
controversial, but yeah, I think it's probably still the greatest.
The Helvetica is like your number one top
Uh,
font.
Maybe not in product, but like for any like kind of visual design, it's probably the goat. Yeah.
Awesome. Good to know. Good to know. Because like coming from not a design background, I always just assumed Helvetica was like the font. Like that is like, oh,
Yeah,
that's the one that
it
you
pretty
use.
much is.
But I
Yeah.
went through a phase. Have you ever seen that font Lobster? Where it's like the
Lobster.
giant thick cursive fonts. I went through a phase in high school where it was like that's all I used for every presentation. So now whenever I think about that, I'm always like I had a brief period of my history where I didn't think Helvetica was the best, and I thought Lobster was. So
Mm. Lobster's probably a close second there. Yeah. Looks underrated.
perfect. The last font for you is Papyrus. Overrated or underrated?
I've never heard a single good thing about it. So I feel like it's also probably rated appropriately. Yeah.
Poor Papyrus.
Yeah. Poor
James
papyrus.
James Cameron's keeping it alive, but I think he might be the only one leading the charge. Awesome. The next few are sort of like more concepts within the design world. So the first one is naming your layers. Overrated or underrated?
Um, Overrated.
All right. All right. What about design systems? Overrated or underrated?
Underrated. Yeah.
Underrated. Love that.
Underrated.
Love that. Do
Yeah.
you what do you have any thoughts on design systems? Why they're underrated, in your opinion?
Um, Maybe they're rated, but like I feel like they're very like obviously incredibly important to move fast. And when you have like so many like one-offs or like you're just like designing based off of like vibes and like having engineers have to like create new things, like it just slows everyone down kind of in the process before you launch anything.
Mhm.
And then also just your entire like designs, like, especially for product, doesn't really feel like a cohesive thing, you know. It feels like a lot of like band-aids kind of throughout the thing holding it together. Whereas if you like start at like the very basic level and think everything through, you just, it's a lot more unified, and also like makes it easier to just like make changes, and yeah, just overall fast. So
There you
yeah,
go.
big fan.
There you go. Big fan. Us too. Us too here. That's fantastic.
Yeah, but
Next one for you is skeuomorphism. Overrated or underrated?
underrated. I'm glad it's making a comeback.
Yeah, definitely. Having
Yeah,
having a bit of a resurgence here.
yeah,
And the
yeah,
next
yeah.
next one for you is flat design. Overrated or underrated?
I think it's also probably overrated. I think I'm just tired of it maybe by now. Like everything is just like being
Sure.
super flat. So like maybe it's just like something different. But I do think it like serves its purpose, and like it had a really good run. So we'll see how it goes.
Definitely. Yeah, it's one of those things I feel like where it's the pendulum swings, back
Hmm.
and forth one way. In 10 years from now,
Yeah,
people are gonna be like, "Oh, flat design is in." Like that's underrated. We need that back. But
yeah,
we'll
exactly.
see. We'll see how that changes. Awesome. That was fantastic. Thank you very much. I appreciate your candid answers there. That was great. And
It's
the next
fun.
one, we're moving on to the interview portion too. So I've got a few questions here just to get to know more about you, your processes, all of those fun things too. So the first one is, how is your relationship with your developers, and is there any room for improvement there that you see?
Mm. My relationship with them is very good, at least from my end. I would say. I think it's good. There's like the mutual respect aspect. I feel like is a big part. Like everyone plays a very important role, and I think having like an open communication with them helps kind of keep that on track. And again, I keep going back to speed, but like I feel like communication with like devs is like the number one thing, and like making sure that designs are like very clearly, design intentions specifically are clearly understood,
Hmm.
feasible. um yeah, and big fan of like having developers involved very early in the process, like maybe even like in the planning stage, like without even any design. Just I think it's very helpful to be able to understand all the technical constraints or any opportunities that
Hmm.
are available. um, yeah, I think, yeah, I'm a big fan of developers, lots of respect there. So like I think my relationship is great. One thing that could be improved, and I don't know if it's like to do with my relationship specifically, but just like a better way, I guess, to um, provide like real time feedback,
Sure.
and like just work more collaborative.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Kind of a side question on something that you mentioned there too about, the technical limitations. Do you prefer like a technical limitation, or are you much more of a fan of like unlimited space for creativity? You know what I mean? Like for a new project, if they're like, okay, this is exactly what we want, or go wild and let us know what you think. Where do you land on that?
Yeah, I love like a blue skies approach, right? Like where you just kind of anything goes.
Mhm.
And I think it's like probably a really good practice is like to design what you think is like the ideal version of whatever the thing is that you're building, even if it's like maybe difficult to do or impossible, I guess. But from there, I think it's easier to make those like trade-offs. And like this is like I'm talking about like this is like the ultimate, I guess, way to like go about something, not necessarily like the most practical.
Uh-huh.
Um, so yeah, I'm like a big fan of like doing like a lot of exploration and stuff. But also, I feel like as you spend more time with developers, you kind of like understand how things are built to some degree, and maybe you don't need those like limitations to be expressed um, every single time. Like you kind of know like some things that are going to be like either out of scope or not. So like you kind of start to factor that in, I guess, maybe even subconsciously. But overall, yeah, love just like starting with a blank canvas for any like
Awesome.
0 to 1 stuff.
Awesome. I love to hear that. I love to hear that. With that
Yeah.
being said, too, what do you think the future of design to dev looks like in your opinion? Is it truly leaning into the design engineer? Is it using AI to bring your designs to life? Like, what do you think about that?
Yeah. I think for like, I don't know, I don't want to like upset any groups of people with this, but like, I do think obviously AI is here to stay, right? Like, there's going to be some changes to workflows in some capacity. And I'm actually not like a doomer about it at all. Like, I think that this is like a big benefit to designers and developers, right? Like, if there's a tool that can make you do your job faster or better or easier, I want it, right? So like, yeah, like, there's obviously like a lot of controversial takes around that, but I do think that there will be a deeper integration between like AI automation for the transition from design to code, whether it's like generating code from like prototypes, or like just Figma pages, or just like a place where you can like build design systems, and then the AI might be able to like help you utilize those in a creative way. But I think these are all positives and might allow designers and developers to like focus on creativity and like problem solving instead of like repetitive tasks. But yeah, I don't think that designers or developers are going anywhere anytime soon in terms of AI.
I love that. I think the most common way that I think we've heard it talked about so far is that it's just going to be another tool at your disposal, another way for
Yeah.
you, like you said, to just improve your workflows, improve all the things that you're doing. And it's also sort of the same thing where it's like, if you gave a specialized tool to somebody who isn't even in that realm of the world, like they're not like, if I gave a UI generator to my mom, she would have no clue what to do with it, like,
Yeah.
so there's going to be ways, and I'm sure like you and many others who are leading the charge are going to be like, no, these are the best ways to actually start incorporating it. These are the ways that I found to cut back my personal time into this too. So I'm excited to see that too. And I appreciate
Me too.
the positive
Me
outlook
too.
there. Awesome. Well, thank you for that breath of fresh air and some positivity around the topic. I appreciate that. Another question for you too, because you mentioned how closely you do work with devs. How is communication with devs different than communication with other designers?
I think it's of course more technical, right? Like it's focused on like I said, feasibility, and then like talking about performance a lot, which like it's not something you typically talk with other designers about. And I guess like a lot of focus on like implementation details, versus I feel like talking to other designers, it's more conceptual.
Okay.
And kind of an iterative, like you focus on like the experience, just like vibes, and like also just like getting a lot of like feedback and just like jamming together on something, and just like just like vibing on a problem. I think they're very, very different, but both are like very important, obviously.
I love that. I love that. Have you? I think the term is called with like pair programming, where it's like you're working right there next to somebody. Have you ever done that before? Is that something that you think you'd like to try at one point, or?
Yeah, I do some pair designing now.
Okay.
Which has been a lot of fun. Yeah, we do like a couple of those sessions a week. It's good because like you get to explore a lot of things that you might have like not thought of, just for somebody who like doesn't have as like depth of knowledge on like the specific problem you're trying to solve. So like they might have like a completely novel solution that like you've overlooked it because like you're so deep into it. So it's very surprising like how much inspiration and like creativity can come from like a short session of just like jamming on it with like another designer. So yeah, big fan.
I love that. Is that something that you can currently do today in Gather, or is that maybe on the roadmap for the future?
Yeah, we do that right now. And got lots of pair programming, lots of pair designing, making it better also. But yeah, it does happen. It's fun.
Awesome. I love that. That's amazing. Cool. Thank you so much. Question about just the general role of product designer as well too. So what does the role of product designer actually look like versus what people outside of the profession think that it looks like?
Yeah, that's a fun one. I feel like the title is already bad, to be honest. Like we should probably call it like software designer or something. I always feel like we've stolen that from like people that design like physical products. That's kind of my take. But that aside, if you ever try to like explain to like your parents what product design is, it's a very fun conversation that I've had many times. It always like people outside of this kind of world feel or imagine it being as like a one-time task, right? Like you just design something and then it's done, right? It's not like very iterative. I feel like people that are not familiar with it might think. And the other misconception is that it's like visual design, right? It's about making things look good, which is obviously like a part of it, but there's so much more underneath, right? Like all the like user conversations you're having, all the user research you're doing, like making that experience like optimal for them is completely, I guess, separate from the UI. And like interaction design is like a whole other. Like, there's just like a lot more than what people unfamiliar with it tend to think. And also, I feel like it's not expected, or it is unexpected to like find out that like designers work very closely with like many other cross-functional teams and like not just like sit there in their creative isolation that I feel like might be a misconception. Yeah, I hope that that's kind of what you're asking.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That was perfect. If you had to describe what you do to a 5-year-old, what would you say?
I would just probably say like I make apps and like point at an iPad or something.
There you go. That the very first time that I asked that question, they were like, "Okay, wait, 5-year-old when I was 5 years old, or 5-year-old
Oh
today?"
yeah,
Because that's like two
important distinction for sure.
two completely different ones. And my very last question for you here today for this section of our chat is: do you think that designers need to learn how to code?
I think like I touched on this a little bit earlier, but I think that code is a tool. Obviously, it's like a very powerful one. I don't think designers necessarily need to learn how to code, but I do think that we need to have a basic understanding of how things are built and how they work. But also anything that like kind of any tool that helps you show your vision, whether it's like a Figma prototype or an actual like Swift UI prototype that you actually code from scratch is like very beneficial. So like if I could know how to code, just like it became like, of course I would want it. I think it would make me a much better designer too, and because like you would be more empathetic and sympathetic with the developers and all the stuff that like we put them through. So I do think it's a plus, but like I don't think it's a requirement.
I like that. I like that a lot. That's been a very similar sentiment echoed by a lot of the guests that we've had so far of like,
Mm,
it's just another thing that can help facilitate that collaboration between that and make it easier for you to come together, and almost create like that shared language between the two of you. So
yeah, exactly.
I love to hear that. That's fantastic. Awesome. Thank you very much. That wraps up our official interview portion. I've got a few rapid fire questions and then a fun game that we'll get to play here very soon.
Oh,
But the rapid fire questions I have for you, there are just 4 of them. And the first one for you is: if you had to guess, how many rectangles have designers created ever?
ever?
Ever. Price is Right style. What's your
Price is Right style. Like I'm like thinking like it's obviously billions. I'm like wondering if it's like over a trillion. I'm gonna go under a trillion, right?
Okay. All
Is
right.
it bad?
Under a trillion.
Yeah.
That's a great answer. We've had answers that range from a few million all the way up to infinity. So you definitely fall somewhere.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. No, a few million. No, I probably made like a few million rectangles. All of them worse than the previous, but hey.
There you go. There you go. If you could describe your design to dev process in just 3 words, what would those 3 words be?
Um, this seems hard. Skip it for now. I'm gonna come back to it. I'm gonna
All good.
yeah, skip.
If you could describe your design process in just 1 word, what would that word be?
Iterative.
Iterative. Love that.
Yeah.
And then final one: if you could describe yourself in 1 word, what would that word be?
Trying.
I love that. Love that. Very cool. All right. Do you want to come back to that question, to the design to dev process in 3 words?
Forgot.
we don't have to.
Design to dev in 3 words. I think that let's just let it go. I don't want to think about it.
All good. All good.
Ship it. Yeah, those are 2.
Ship it. You did it in even fewer words. You're being very efficient. So I appreciate that. I appreciate the efficiency there. Ship it. That's fantastic. All right. Well, thank you very much, Alex. That brings us to our very final segment, which I like to call "So You Think You're a Designer," where we put our esteemed guests' design skills to the test by asking them to recreate the Zeppelin logo in just 2 minutes using Microsoft Paint. So whenever you're ready, feel free to share your screen and we will follow along very dutifully and enjoy the process while we can.
Okay.
Yeah, and for those of you who are out there wanting to test it out for yourself, the website that we're using is jspaint.app. And it's a very fun web-based paint version. Takes you right back to the computer in your family room, using it when your parents go to sleep. All right, fantastic. Well, we see your canvas. The second a pixel hits the screen, your time will begin. So feel free to start.
Okay. I'm using a trackpad and have 0 visual design skills. So this is going to be incredible. Hope you're ready. All right, here we go.
I'm
2
very
minutes.
excited.
All right.
Perfect. All right.
So far, so good.
This is for a trackpad. Everybody has to remember this limitation.
Yeah, that's very important. This is like not like super horrible.
No, this is good. This is very good. It's funny. I always pull it up and I always try to do it myself, and this is better than every single attempt I've ever done.
I don't know how these brushes work. Okay, hold on. What's my time?
Oh my God. You still have 1 minute and 30 seconds left, so you are doing good. You've already got the base of it all. We're looking good.
Oh no. This is impossible, by the way.
With the trackpad. I applaud you for your efforts here. We like to say, you know, progress over perfection. And so far
that's very good. That's a healthy way to think about it. Oh no.
I like this. This is it's perfect. I can't.
Okay, perfect. You guys can have it. Yeah, this one's on the house. Oh, there's not enough color options here. What is going on? Can you blend colors? Now I regret like going for higher fidelity.
That is a-okay. I think you can. You've got about 1 minute left. So if you want to, I think there's an option in the top for under colors where you might be able to like pick a new one, like on that top bar there.
Oh, it's huge, massive. Thank you.
Of course.
Wait, this is like almost the same orange. All right, forget it.
You can definitely tell. There's for sure a difference there.
Those edges to be more clear. Oh no. All right. I think I've actually just regressed entirely here. Let me just
You've got about 30 seconds left here.
Perfect. That's actually too much time. Let's see. Yeah, no, I should have just like kept the 25-second version. There you go. That's it.
Hands up, and you've got time to spare too. The theme is efficiency with you today. Yes, thank you very much for saving this and sending it over to me. I am very excited to display this on our. At the end of all of this, what I want to do is I want to have everybody come together and make a big quilt full of all of the different logos that we've had designed so far on our show here. This is one of my favorites, so thank you very much. I really do appreciate it, Aleks. I appreciate our time. I know we're coming up here on time. Is there anything else that you'd like to say to all of your viewers here out there, or any last words of wisdom that you have for everybody?
Just thanks for having me. I'm just very happy to be here, and awesome. That was fun. Thanks a lot. I'm going to practice doodling now for the next couple of days.
In paint. All right. Yeah. Maybe we'll have you back in like 2 or 3 months, and we'll be able to compare the drawings up there, see if any of your answers have changed, all that too. Thank you very much, Aleks. It's been really, really fun to just watch your whole, you know, career progress, and your not only your career, but your path as a content creator on X as well. So you've got some banger tweets, certified bangers. So I appreciate you coming on. We're very honored to have you here, and thank you so much. We hope you have a great rest of your day today.
Thank you, Nico.
All right. Thank you all so much. Take care, everybody, and we'll see you next week.